What is Persona 5? Now, that's a question I asked time and time again when wondering if Persona 5 would be worth playing. I had never played the previous Persona games, and I must admit that I am not a fan of turn-based combat at all. But despite that, Persona 5 has gripped me and I don't want to stop playing. Yo, what's going on guys, I'm Cartere and I haven't fully completed Persona 5, so please don't mistake this for a review. I'll be putting out a full review of Persona 5 once I've finished the game, but that is rumored to take around 80 to 100 hours, so it may take a while. Instead, this video's purpose is to try and give you more insight into what Persona 5 is and what you actually do in the game. I'm about 20 hours into the game, so I'll be able to give you some insight into what you're getting yourself in for, at least at the beginning of the game. As someone who is not a big turn-based JRPG fan, in fact I'm quite the opposite, I quickly overlooked Persona 5 when it was released. Even after all the very high review scores and consistent praise from both large and smaller outlets, I had no intention of ever playing Persona 5 because it just wasn't clear what it was. Most reviews confirmed that Persona 5's gameplay was a mix of a live sim and a turn-based RPG, and this is true. In Persona 5 you play as a school kid who is sent to live with a man you don't know after you get in a little trouble back in your hometown. The game is actually started in media res, showing you what will happen at some point in the future and throwing you back at the beginning of the journey to find out how you got there, and this is how they hook you. Persona 5 takes place over about a year, and each day is represented in your in-game calendar. Most days in Persona 5 consist of you attending school in the daytime and then doing what you'd like or what the game forces you to do in the evening. Attending school isn't as in-depth as I had hoped. It's not like the Rockstar game Bully or Canis Canem Edit. For example, on certain days you'll be asked a question in class, and if you answer it correctly you'll gain knowledge. That's about the extent of school in this game. In addition to being asked a question, school time is generally either skipped past or you'll gain some story insight. And let's talk about that, the story. Story is the main focus on Persona 5, and it's delivered through animated cutscenes, which are rare but awesome, voice dialogue with some in-game animation, and a bunch of unvoiced dialogue with some in-game animation, like a visual novel. There's a lot of reading to do in this game, so if reading is not your strong suit, this may not be the game for you. The voice scenes do come in frequently enough to break up the large reading sections, but it's a little disappointing that there wasn't more voice sections when a game like The Witcher 3 had hours and hours of content and all the side missions and every piece of dialogue was voiced. This is a small gripe though, and the story actually makes up for it, even if sometimes it feels like you're reading a comic instead of playing a game. And story in games is really what hooks me. Like, I love story in games, so that's probably a big factor why I'm enjoying this game so much. So now we've talked about how the story is covered, let's get back into what you can do after school. After school, you can hang out with your school friends, make new friends, and buy items and equipment to aid you in combat. Combat is something you can also get involved in after school, but we'll get into that later. In Persona 5, when you meet a cool person who you're able to talk to and form a deep relationship with, they become your confidant. Hanging out with and completing missions for these confidants will rank up your relationship with them, and ranking up your relationship with them can grant you new abilities and perks in battle. In addition to spending time with confidants after school, you also have the opportunity to work on your real life skills. These skills range from kindness and intelligence to guts and charm. Sometimes you'll need to upgrade these skills to engage in specific tasks or quests, or even to approach new confidants or rank up old ones. At the beginning of the game, you can only do one of these activities a day. Once you pick an activity to do, whether that's studying or hanging out with a friend, the game will forward to the evening and you're pretty much sent to bed. These decisions of what you want to do after school isn't always left up to you though. In my 20 hours of play, I've been forced to do things after school a bunch of times, and I suspect the game will offer me more freedom, but I can't be sure. And I just want to put it out there to warn you guys, like the first 15 hours of the game basically is tutorial and teaching you what to do. It's a very long intro process, so be prepared for that and be prepared to deal with that. I felt like they were going to take off the training wheels at some point, but it feels like I'm at where the main game opens up and they still are kind of limiting me. So I don't know if you end up getting more freedom or if this is just the way the game is. I'll be able to let you guys know that in my review. But yeah, let's continue. The other main side of Persona is the metaverse, palaces, and combat. Without going into spoilers, the super bad guys in the real world have palaces formed by their distorted desires in the metaverse, which is the place where you have access to your Persona abilities. You can enter the metaverse using an app on your phone, and your goal is usually to infiltrate the palace of one of these bastards and steal their treasure. After you steal their treasure, the palace is then destroyed and the bastard in question may have a change of heart and confess all their wrongdoings and distorted desires. The gameplay of navigating these palaces consists of some light puzzles, a bit of stealth, and a bunch of turn-based combat. Now, let me be honest now. I'm having a blast with this combat system. The personas you fight against have character and they've made me chuckle a bunch. The combat strategy boils down to finding your opponent's weakness and managing your SP points. This is the resource that you need to use your persona powers. If you hit an enemy with an attack they're weak to, they'll be downed. And if you can down all the opposing enemies in a fight, then you have the choice to negotiate with them to try and gain items, money, or the personas themselves, or you can do an all-out attack which will usually end the fight and get you some sweet XP. SP management is critical though, as most items do not let you regenerate SP. So if all your party members, which you control by the way, you can pick between controlling all your party members or letting the computer control them, and I pick controlling them all because I don't want the computer to do some bullshit. And obviously that's part of the strategy, using your party members that have different elements to, you know, test out the weakness of different enemies and, you know, so forth. So if all your party members are low on SP, you'll probably need to leave the palace for the day. You usually have a set time limit for when you need to complete a palace by, but you are encouraged to take your time, which is communicated to you by the loading screens. There's like a little logo at the bottom right of the screen when it's loaded that says take your time. So I'm assuming you're supposed to take your time. I completed my first palace after 10 hours and I was hooked. I needed to know what was going to happen next. The persona collecting element of the game is also quite addictive and Pokemon-like. You can also execute personas in order to combine them and make even more powerful personas, so you'll always want to grab more. There's so much more I can say about the game and characters, but I feel that I've given you more than enough information to understand the game. Feel free to leave more information or questions in the comment section below, but please, no spoilers. No spoilers, guys. Please just be wary of, you know, people who haven't played the game, and myself. I haven't finished it yet, so please no spoilers. Be sure to join my Discord channel where you can play games with me and discuss games and more. The link is in the description, and thanks for watching and liking and subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Be sure to look out for the Persona 5 review. Peace.